Hey guys, it's Muck Explains here, doing part 3 of 4 of our Oscars Overhaul Series. And today, like I did for the Grammys, I'm just going to be going over each Oscars category and doing my picks. Keep in mind, these are my personal opinions. These aren't based on any odds or who I think is going to win. It's based on who I personally would pick or would vote for, with, some explanation for each choice. I would like to mention that I have seen every film nominated for Best Picture outside of The Secret Agent. So I've seen 9 out of the 10 films nominated for Best Picture. So by all means, hate on my takes if you disagree with them, but at least know that I'm well informed. So starting off with, as the Oscars normally does, Best Supporting Actor. This is one that's pretty competitive. Benicio del Toro, One Battle After Another, Jacob Elordi, Frankenstein, Delroy Lindo, Sinners, Sean Penn, One Battle, and Stellan Skarsgård from Sentimental Value. I think any other year this would be very close. Obviously, Delroy Lindo's performance is very strong, but not nearly as much is required of him as, Sean Penn and Jacob Elordi, in my opinion, especially in terms of transforming himself or, physicality. Like Sean Penn, the way he walked, the way he held his face was all very unique and menacing and sometimes hilarious. But I just have to go Jacob Elordi. I mean, he's like, I don't even know if he's even a supporting, because he carries a movie on his back. Like, if Jacob Elordi doesn't give the performance of a lifetime in that film, then the film doesn't work at all. And I mentioned this in my last video when I was ranking movies, and I talked about Frankenstein and just how much he changed his physicality for the role and how much he was able to make us feel for this character, especially towards the beginning, where he can only say one word throughout a lot of the runtime. He only knows how to say Victor. And he says it in such a different way every time that we feel the emotion behind each one. And he acts a lot with his eyes as well. And I just think he's the one that really wowed me the most of all of these nominees, even though it is a strong category. I personally would go with Jacob Elordi here. Supporting actress is also going to be interesting. So Elle Fanning, Sentimental Value, Inga Lilas, also from Sentimental Value, Amy Madigan from Weapons, Wunmi Mosaku from Sinners, and Tiana Taylor from One Battle. I think this is considered one of the closest races. I think between this and Best Actor are very close between Wunmi, Amy, and Tiana. But I would go with Amy Madigan here. I mean, she's just so terrifying, so unique, so singular. And she also has to pull off a lot of physical scenes, as well as just a lot of difficult facial expressions. And once again, as with Jacob Elordi's performance, I think the movie does not work at all if she isn't amazing in the film Weapons. The movie just doesn't work. And even people who didn't like Weapons acknowledge that her performance was amazing. So I would go with her here. Getting into Best Director, this is also going to be another really competitive category. Obviously, I think Chloe Zhao, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Ryan Coogler are the big three here in this category. I have issues with the way One Battle After Another was written, for sure. But the way Paul Thomas Anderson directed this film was obviously really good, especially the hill chase scene was one of the more well-directed sequences in recent memory. But in my mind, personally, this is between Chloe Zhao for Hamnet and Ryan Coogler. And I do not want it to be glossed over how amazing of a job Chloe did with Hamnet, directing those actors and blocking and the framing of certain sequences. But I'd still have to give this to Ryan Coogler, largely on the back of obviously the I Lied to You one take scene, which is undoubtedly one of the greatest scenes of the decade of cinema. But even beyond that, the visuals of the movie are just breathtaking. He makes the confined set of the juke joint feel so lived in and so vibrant and so dynamic. And he also effortlessly kind of blends the directing styles together of all of the genres that he's taking inspiration from. Or even in terms of directing actors, like being able to direct Michael B. Jordan in a scene where he has no scene partner, because the scene partner obviously is himself. So being able to direct scenes where one of the characters is not there and you have to direct actors around that's very difficult. And even being able to take, Miles Caton, who had never acted before a day in his life, and to get such an amazing performance out of that kid, which obviously the kid has insane talent, but to be able to bring that out of him and out of his actors with all that he's balancing, while making something that has a prestige feel and a blockbuster feel at the same time. I do think that makes him deserving of the award. but obviously I wouldn't be mad to see it go to Chloe Zhao. Original screenplay, I'm pretty sure Sinners is also a shoe in here. I don't know if anybody would argue with that. Adapted screenplay, a lot of people are taking one battle after another. I would also take Hamnet here. I do think, once again, that Hamnet is being severely overlooked in favor of one battle after another during this award season. But I'm taking Hamnet for adapted screenplay. Although I do want to give a quick shout out to Begonia for adapted screenplay, because that screenplay was very strong. Something tells me that Begonia is going to come away with nothing on Sunday, and that's going to piss me off because it's really good. But I don't know, maybe I'm just jumping to conclusions. Okay, next I'll quickly go through the craft awards. Not that these awards mean any less than anything else. In fact, best score is the award that's most important to me because I value film score more than anything. But there's a lot of craft awards, so I'm just gonna kind of go through each of them and pick my winners. I'm not gonna really talk about the entire field. Starting with cinematography, I would like to see Sinners win here, but I'm also leaning towards Train Dreams. This may be a weird bias because I wasn't a huge fan of Train Dreams, but it's kind of all cinematography. The cinematography is so beautiful that it almost feels like a cinematography first movie. Every shot from this movie looks like a painting, even though I just wasn't a huge fan of the screenplay and the overall story structure. But yeah, once again, I'll love to see Sinners win, but I'm kind of leaning towards Train Dreams to get the win here. I just think that it'll come away with it. Visual effects, just go give it to Avatar right now. Just get it out the way. I would be shocked if anything else won. It's Avatar. It's got to win visual effects. Sound, I would go with F1. I thought the sound design was incredibly impressive on this film, especially if you saw it in, IMAX or Dolby, or even if you didn't, honestly, the sound was still incredible. Film editing, I'd actually give this to one battle after another because I thought the way that a lot of the sequences were edited was very actually impressive, and the way it intercut between Leo's character and Chase Infinity's character as Leo kind of chases after her, trying to rescue her while she's rescuing herself, and the kind of that ticking time clock, and a lot of those sequences that are interspersed with each other to kind of draw out the suspense, I thought was well done, even if, once again, I wasn't a big fan of this film. Okay, production design, costume design, and hair and makeup. Just give it all to Frankenstein. Frankenstein sweep. Let's go. This movie should dominate those categories, and for good reason. Best casting. I'm going to talk about this one a little bit more because this is a new award. I think all of these films are exceptionally well casted, and this is an interesting year for it to be the first year because, it can really go to any of these films, but I would have to give it to Hamnet because one thing I'm looking at is intentionality with the casting and delivering a cast for a film where you couldn't see it any other way. And when you look at the way Hamnet was casted, you look at how Hamnet, Shakespeare's son, they casted his older brother to be the one who plays Hamlet in the play. So even though they aren't brothers in the film, they casted a younger brother, older brother duo because thematically they wanted the guy who plays Hamlet to remind you of the kid who inspired that character. And for Agnes's character and William's character, you see why they get so emotional while watching this play unfold and why they feel so connected to this Hamlet character, because he feels like the legacy of the son is literally living on, both phenotypically and in story. Things like that, attention to detail in that way, and also being able to find a 10-year-old who can act that well. I just gotta give it to Hamnet there. And for score, well, I know I made a video a couple weeks ago of my top 10 scores of this year, so if you're interested in film score, go check that out. And needless to say, Sinners was mentioned quite a lot because I think it's one of the best scores, or one of the strongest scores of the 21st century of film, as is everything that Ludwig Göransson makes. So obviously this will go to Sinners, and I think that's one of those kind of guaranteed things. Best original song, everyone's going back and forth between Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters because it went number 1 and it was a huge hit, versus I Lied to You, which wasn't a huge hit, which doesn't have necessarily the replayability, I guess, of that of a pop song, but I think was used better within that film and was, soundtracking, like I said, one of the most important scenes of cinema of this decade. So I don't know, if you base it off of what song was better for the movie that it was used in and what song played a bigger role in soundtracking a scene or a film or communicating ideas, then it's I Lied to You. If you just go off of just what was a more popular, bigger hit song, then K-Pop Demon Hunters, Golden would win. But I would take I Lied to You because of its significance and its creativity and its use in the actual film that it's in, even if it doesn't stand on its own as a hit song necessarily. But And K-pop Demon Hunter fans out there, don't get mad at me just yet. Well, actually, you're probably like 8, so I don't even know if you're watching this. But best animated film, obviously, is K-pop Demon Hunters, because that's just, I mean, the people have spoken. That's beyond me. I can't even make this choice. This is another one of those foregone conclusions. Best international film. I'm a little salty about this category because they didn't nominate the best international film to come out last year, which was No Other Choice, directed by Park Chan-wook, the director of Oldboy. Like, he dropped a generational film and nobody cared, but that's a video for another time. But of these films here, I know everyone's talking about sentimental value and no one's talking about It Was Just an Accident. So I'm going to be the contrarian. Not really a contrarian. I just like this movie more. I'm going to go with It Was Just an Accident. That movie was really, really good. Just merely the fact that it's a critique on the oppressive Iranian regime. And the guy who directed it was imprisoned by the oppressive Iranian regime, got out of prison, eventually made this film without the approval of the Iranian government, which is what he needed, and still somehow was able to make and release this film. That alone is just so impressive, but also the film itself is amazing. The screenplay is really good, performances are great, and it has a lot of very impressive one-shot sequences, and one of the best endings of any film this year. Okay, now into the final 3 awards, which are the most sought after, the most popular, the most talked about: lead actress, lead actor, and best picture. Best lead actress. Okay, so before I watched Hamnet, which was recently, I had Emma Stone from Begonia. I thought that her performance in Begonia was amazing. Really creepy, really off-putting, really different for her. She really pushed herself. And once again, that movie does not work without her. But, oh my God, Jessie Buckley in Hamnet is generational. Her facial expressions, the amount of pain she's able to carry with a slight look, the amount of joy she's able to convey with just a laugh. I mean, she just had me glued to the screen. Everything she did, she's had me glued to the screen. I mean, she had me ready to tear up. I mean, she just took me through it all. I'm not gonna lie, she took me through a lot. I mean, I watched it at home and I was ready to stand up and clap at the end of the movie. Also, like, acting out labor pains. I mean, she just was on a whole different level in this film. And honestly, even beyond this year, I haven't seen anything like that in a long time. And I think, you know, odds-wise, I think she definitely has a incredibly strong chance of taking this away. And I think anyone who's seen Hamnet will agree with me that she just was the best performance here, even though it is decently competitive. Okay, best lead actor. Okay, I'm gonna have a normal conversation about this. Everyone's arguing about this and no one has given like a good take about anything yet. People want Timothée to lose because like they think he's a little bit mean, which I don't really get. People are bringing up campaigns, interviews, everything but the actual performances. I'm going to be talking about performance for performance. First of all, wait a minute. Leo was very good in one battle after another. I do want to say that. But I do think this is obviously between Timmy and Michael B. Jordan. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. And based on that, I would go with, I really, really like Timothy's performance and Marty Supreme. I would go with Michael B. Jordan. And, you know, for me, it's beyond the just that he played 2 characters, because, you know, people have played 2 characters before, but I think he brought a lot of nuance to each character that I wasn't really expecting. I kind of thought it would just be like the typical dual role thing, and he kind of caught me off guard. I also, and this is like a confession, I wasn't even huge on him as an actor before Sinners. Like, I thought he was good, but I didn't really realize the extent of his acting chops, to be honest. But he was able to deliver a powerhouse performance in a film that's full of powerhouse performances, which was obviously validated by the fact that the Screen Actors Guild, which is composed of exclusively other actors, gave him the award for best performance because they recognized the difficulty and the magnitude of his performance. I think that, you know, kind of seeing Timothée Chalamet in interviews and, you know, talking and just kind of getting a sense of his personality, which I don't have a problem with. I think it's cool that he is this outspoken and this, you know, unashamed of his kind of like, I don't know, like Mamba mentality, I guess. But the character of Marty Mauser, if you watch Marty Supreme, doesn't feel like that much of a departure from Timothée Chalamet as compared to some of his other roles in the past, such as Beautiful Boy, Dune, Complete Unknown, The King. This felt the closest to him as compared to all of the roles he's done so far. Whereas this felt the furthest from Michael B. Jordan as compared to everything we've seen him do so far. And to me, that's the difference maker. Smoke and Stack feel like a departure from each other, yes, but also a huge departure from Michael B. Jordan in a way that Marty Mauser doesn't feel like a huge departure from Timothee Chalamet. And thus, I think the difficulty of pulling off just either of those roles, or just that Sinners role in general, is higher than pulling off the Marty Mauser role, from the way I see it. So even though it's going to be a close category for sure, I'd go with Michael B. Jordan there. And going off the back of that, very simply put, Best Picture, I've got Sinners. Sinners at 1 with Hamnet right underneath. As you can probably tell from this video, those are the 2 movies of all the nominees that I've kind of been gravitating towards the most. You know, obviously I have some bias, but you know, that's the whole point of this video. I'm just picking my favorites. I mean, if you disagree strongly, make your own video. You can even like link it in the comments, like I'll watch it. I honestly just think it's great that we have so many great films and great performances to talk about this year. So yeah, that's basically it for the video. I'm gonna put links to my top 10 movies ranking and my best film scores of the year ranking at the end of the video. And come back on either Monday or Tuesday for the final part of my Oscars Overhaul series. And subscribe for more film takes, film analysis, video essays, music takes, you know, pop culture commentary, and reviews. So hopefully you guys stick around, and if so, I'll see you next time.